What's up, everybody? This is Mason. We're back with another founder interview. Today, we are fortunate to have the founder of Silbo, Brendan Szulik, on with us. So, Silbo is a digital marketplace directly connecting amateur sports officials to sports games. They offer referee management solutions that simplify the process of getting officials for the games. So, let's bring him on and learn more about Silbo.
Hey, Mason, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on, man. So did I pronounce the last name right?
Close enough, Szulik.
Szulik, sorry. Okay, you just told me before we came on, short memory.
Yeah, no worries.
So we appreciate you coming on, man. Obviously, like being sports, being tech, very interested. This is a real issue for a lot of, pro-ams that I've played in as a kid growing up, just trying to get organized. And then even, for like the USA team this past summer when we had to get like FIBA referees and we were trying to have runs out at, we practiced in Vegas, LA. I'm always curious, like where do people source refs from? What's the issue that you're solving? And so we're excited to learn about your solution, and we'll let you take it from the top.
Yeah. So I guess I'll start with, what exists today, right? So typically right now when a game provider is looking for referees, they hire a middleman, right? Like I run my local basketball league. I don't necessarily know all the refs. And so I'll hire a middleman known as an assigner or a booking agent. And this assigner has like a Rolodex of referees who they will call and assign to games, being like, all right, you need to be here Friday at 5. And so in many ways, like if you're talking about at the college or professional level, there's only a handful of qualified people who could actually ref like the NBA game. And so it makes sense, right? Like I know that I want, Bob on the Duke UNC game. Bob knows both the coaches, it works. But once you go down to like the rec and amateur level, then it gets way more inefficient, right? There's probably 100 people in your area who are capable of working a 10U basketball game. Why do you have a middleman who's saying who can go where and when they can go there? The payments get all messed up. Are you getting paid via check? Are you getting paid via cash? When will you get paid? And unfortunately, it's, you have to mention it, especially right now, but there's a lot of bias, both explicit and explicit bias. That less than 10% of sports officials are African American, and they see a lot of bias. Women is the same in how they get assigned games, and they don't feel it's a meritocracy. And so, starting at the lowest levels, it becomes just a really inefficient, antiquated system.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I was going to ask, like, how do you see what you're doing for the referee industry affecting us at the professional level?
Yeah. So I would say first, NBA refs, despite what many players may think, are actually really good.
They are. I'll agree with that. Even though none of them are listening, I will say, like, people have no idea the grading system that they go through, the scrutiny that they're under. Now the head of our association is Monty McCutcheon, who was an excellent ref in his day, but he comes, they meet with the team. Sorry to interject, but they meet with our team each year. These are the points of emphasis. These are how we're grading officials. They're rewarded with playoffs games, finals games, and they're the best of the best. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so I would say that they're the best, but I think that even they would acknowledge that it's difficult for them to source new referees, right? Like the NBA and many other leagues, I'm not singling them out. They actually have like scouts, right? Like you would go scout a player. They have scouts for referees, and so they're trying to figure out how they can get referees into the pipeline. And so like, while I respect the NBA, one of the things that logically you would have to assume is if they can get a larger pool of people at the lower level, they can feed more talent up to the top level and hopefully get better refs in the future. And so that's where we would come in, right? That, our goal is to create a mass of officials at the rec level and create that database and create that group. And so over the coming generation, like maybe the videos things that the NBA refs are using now today will help, But because we have access to a larger talent pool for them to then pull from, they can get higher level people in the future.
Makes sense. So what's your personal connection to this? Why start Silbo? What was the inspiration?
Yeah. My greatest athletic accomplishment was winning an IM championship at Duke. I made a 3 in Cameron, and so it's about as close as I'm going to get to the big time.
I only ever made one too, so it's all good. I hit one home, one away my freshman year. I didn't see the 3 going again the rest of my career.
Wow. Was that because you chose not to shoot it, or because Coach K told you not to shoot it?
A little bit of both. No, it was more. No, he never told me not to shoot. But I hit one. I'll never forget, against Georgia Tech my freshman year in Cameron. Hit one against Iowa State, the United Center, and I was like, okay, we'll hit some more going forward. And then he told me I better start rebounding. So anyway, all right. So sure, it's not my story. It's your story.
So it started with my younger brother was a baseball player for Amherst College, and we were sitting at one of his conference games, and it was like the semifinals of his conference, and my brother and the kid who relieved him hit like 9 or 10 batters in a single game, which is, as you know, unheard of. And the opposing players just kept leaning into pitches. And finally, my brother's coach comes out in the 9th inning and yells and gets ejected. And my co-founders and I were sitting there watching it. And it was just like, who is this guy? Like, how did he get this game? What are his qualifications? And, you go online and you can't really find out. You can't find out if, is his name Bob? Is Bob any good? Like, if you looked up right now the high school refs for the North Carolina High School Championship last year, you probably can't find out who they were, their qualifications. And so, we started becoming refs. We became umpires. We became basketball refs. And as I said earlier, we experienced all these problems. Like, why am I getting told to go somewhere Friday at 7 p.m. when I got something to do? And like, oh, if you don't go, then you'll never work again. It's like, all right, well, I guess I'm going. And so it became a real terrible system that we thought we could solve through technology.
Gotcha. So audience question to the point that you just made on credentials. Jaden Orenov asks, is there a rating system for the refs on your platform?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So based on your current credentials, we assign you a level like 1 through 5. So you're only able to see and take games that you're qualified for. So for instance, if you have a high school certification, you'd be a level 4. But also behind the scenes, we do 2 things. One is you have to rate your partner every game. So, how they did, their approachability, stuff like that, just like when you were checking out of an Uber. And so that's one way that we get information. And then the second is that we're able to track a lot of things like your reliability. Do you show up to games? Do you show up on time? Do you take games and then drop them at the last minute? And so we're able to aggregate like what we call a leaderboard, a Silbo score. And so you can see like, hey, like compared to my peers, I've worked a lot of games and I've done them well and they respect me. I show up on time. And so, yeah, there is a rating system.
Interesting. How or what are the different events that you guys are active at right now? Is it mostly like AAU Summer League? Is it, grassroots? I don't know.
Basketball? Yeah. Most of it would be rec things.
Okay.
So like everything from Little League baseball to your local basketball tournaments. We do some like basketball tournaments, but our biggest basketball are like Arlington County, Virginia's basketball league, right? You play 10 games over the course of the season. Our average age game is probably 11-year-olds, but about, I would say, a third of our business is adult sports.
Interesting.
What you and I might consider like beer league, like kickball, flag football, they're huge. I had no idea. I never played them, but
and those need good refs because those are the people that end up in fights. It's funny. Before we jumped on, a previous interview, we had the founder of Workforce Athletics come on, and they're a corporate sports league. They facilitate games between companies. So you have LinkedIn, play Facebook, and whatever. But she was saying, she was educating me on the pain points that you referenced of how hard it is to get good refs, to get them to show up on time, and to get people that are credentialed to do so. So another audience question, Naja Grant asks, how does your business make money with this?
Mhm. Yeah, so we make money in two ways. One, for the leagues, they pay us I guess you'd call it a subscription, a contract, basically a support contract for the software. And then on the other end, we take a percentage of everything that's paid out to the official. So the officials don't pay a membership, they don't pay any subscriptions. But just like an Uber or something, we take a percentage of whatever's paid out.
Got it. Makes sense. Another audience question, Alex Dorofino asks, Mason, have you ever been in a game that was decided on a ref's call? Do NBA players rank the refs? We don't rank the refs. We get to know them. You know what's interesting to me is like all these teams now, they put out the refs as well. Like for us in our locker room, we'll have the refs for the game in the scouting report, because everybody, just like players have tendencies, refs have tendencies. And I do think it's important to understand, like when I was in college, Coach K knew all the refs. Of course, he had been in the ACC for 20, 25 years, but like at the end of the day, as much as we want them to be robotic, they're human too. And I think that ref engagement from a player standpoint it can either be an advantage or a disadvantage based on how you approach it. Not that you don't get mad or tell them the truth or whatever, but so I really get excited about what you're doing for the whole referee profession, talking about supporting it from the ground up and getting people interested in it. I haven't seen anything like this. Is there a lot of competition in what you're doing, or is it pretty much your guys' playground?
Yeah, it's our playground, at least at the rec level. There's a large company that I'm friendly with that does assigning software. So like they give software to the people that we replace. And they were owned by the NCAA for a while, and so they're very big in the college and high school markets, and that's not something that we touch at all. Like personally, like here I am picking on these assigners at the rec level. One of them in the Raleigh area just got arrested for check fraud a few months ago, like against his own umpires. But at the college and professional level, like these guys are legitimate people. There's millions of dollars on the line. Like if the Denver Nuggets and the Utah Jazz don't get the right refs, so
Right.
it's a little different. But yeah, I think like the most interesting thing about becoming a ref is that when I have kids and I eventually want to be a coach or something for them, my perspective on how to teach them like the game of whatever it's basketball, baseball will change, because referees are human and you got to live with their calls. I'm sure that you've already been taught this in your career, but like I've been a referee for 5 or 7 years. I've done competitive high school games, and like there have been times that I've been on the court and totally had like a brain fart. Like someone will take 10 steps and you're like, oh, that was fine. That you just have to learn to deal with it as an athlete. So
you know what I didn't appreciate? One of the things, so we had our meeting with Monty McCutcheon this year, and he came and met with us. And the play had just happened where LeBron had the ball at the top of the key, really a half court against Utah. And he took like 4 steps, just no dribble, 4 steps, casual, no call. And like, of course, his players were like, all right, come on, like what's going on? And he explained to us like it was just a matter of his backline ref being 3 feet out of position. He's like, normally he's supposed to be, I don't know, like not in playing with the ball, but 3 feet behind and see everything, and like understanding where the eyes go to when the ball is caught by another player. Like these are all considerations that until somebody like Monty broke it down for me, I'm like, man, there's an order of operations. Obviously, you guys have to be in great shape. But to me, it's I've gained through that one meeting each year. I've gained more respect for the profession and what all goes into it, and it's for sure a thankless job. So I think it's really neat.
I've also been told that in terms of like it gets easier from like refereeing like 8-year-old sports is really hard because like everything's a travel, a foul. And so as it gets better, like in varsity and college, like, you guys know what you're doing. You guys generally know what's a foul and what's not, right? There's some subjective stuff, but you hit someone on the arm, it's a foul. But like once you hit the NBA, I think it's harder because you guys are so big and so fast, like on the same size court. You know, how do you see that small little hand between, you know, a bunch of 7-foot guys?
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely different. The okay, another audience question. I don't know if this guy knows you, but he says you've raised millions of dollars with the Ref platform. You don't have to speak to your funding status if you don't want to. He said, I didn't realize this was such big business. How can you extend this into other verticals?
Yeah, yeah. So the vertical that we're going after next is more of an expansion into the, I guess you would call it, workforce industry in athletics. So we found that there are a lot of people other than refs at sports games, sports events, sports whatever. So everything from water boys to volunteers to scorekeepers to concessions personnel, and that it's something that they need help scheduling as well. That, you know, you have. I was speaking to a PGA golf tournament the other day. They have 1,000 volunteers in a single week, and they have them all saved and assigned on spreadsheets. So,
Wow.
so yeah, it's there's a big problem, but that's what we're doing. You know, we're trying to expand the platform so it's beyond just officials and into the greater sports workforce.
Makes sense. Are you familiar with the startup Teamworks at all?
Oh yeah, yeah, right down the road.
Yeah. What was their story? They started basically just like a team communication app, and now they're servicing like restaurants and stuff, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
It, it's interesting how these companies play out, and you guys end up solving everybody's problems. Um, Question from Jacqueline Szymanski. She asks, "You must have a huge database of names. Do you do anything with this data? Wondering if you can now market and develop events for officials. Bet there's a lot you can do with this info."
Yeah, yeah, there is. You know, last year we held a sportsmanship conference here in North Carolina with the Carolina Hurricanes at their arena. So that was one thing. We're trying to set up community events in all the cities that we operate in. That was pre-COVID, so we would have, you know, what we would like, we call it like a ref barbecue that everyone can get together. In terms of the COVID times, we've actually been holding almost weekly webinars. We've had some pretty interesting people. We had Mike Eads, who was a ref you might know from your college days, and we had Bob Delaney, who I think was in the NBA before you. And so we had them on to hear their thoughts and stuff. So we're trying to do that. And we're also working on partnerships. So we're working with, it'll be announced tomorrow, but one referee apparel company to make sure that people can get gear more affordably, especially post-COVID. So yeah, we're trying to use that data however we can.
Okay, I have last audience question. I have to bring this in. James Andrews asks, he says, "Hey, I'm a fellow Duke alum. Love what you're up to. Can you share your favorite non-sports Duke memory?"
You know, I'm gonna have to go with something with sports. Just sorry, James, but it wasn't me doing the sports. It was actually you. The 2010 national championship was like one of the most bizarre experiences. Cause so I was a junior, and like when you guys won, we were all in Cameron, and everyone piled out onto the quad, and it was almost like that night everyone was in love. Like you could see people you had spoken to since freshman year and hug and be like, "I love you," and like the next day you wouldn't talk to them again. But for that like one moment, everything was right in the world, and so I think that was probably my favorite memory. Like the joy of you guys winning, but also like everyone was just so happy nothing could go wrong. So yeah, I hope that answers James' question.
Yeah, that's amazing. So very cool. So this is super, man. We appreciate you coming on. Is there any advice you could give to other founders out there, people working on their own concepts?
I would say it doesn't get easier. You know, it's difficult. It's a long road. You're going to be plagued with doubts and moments that you wonder whether you're doing the right thing or whether you should keep doing it. But I think that like once you know that you're on the right track, you're on the right track, and so you know, you just got to keep up with it. So
Gotcha. That's great. Well, I hope to benefit from your guys' service. I know, like I play in some summer league games, the New York City Pro Am. Sometimes I go over to Spies Fieldhouse in Fort Wayne, Indiana. But I know you're solving a problem because I can't tell you how many times. I mean, really, when I think about NBA players getting together in the summer, like we have enough to be able to pay for a ref, but we wouldn't even know where to go to get it. So I think it's a real solution for not just the youth, but also, like you said, the older people who just want a little bit of structure to the pickup. I think it go a long way. So
Yeah.
It save a lot of fights in open.
Yeah.
But so yeah, let's run the website. Brendan, really appreciate you coming on. I think it's awesome what you're doing, and I'm a fan, so I'll look forward to following your progress.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Mason. Thank you.
For sure.